let's see how much we actually got. Okay, you've had a storm. Look, there you go. We're down to dry already. Look at that. Fuck all. Where we ripped, you got better penetration. See, it's just the dry's just there.
Yeah.
So we need a little bit more to bridge the gap between the bottom of that plant and the subsoil moisture that's down there.
Hopefully we'll get a bit more.
It was a pretty good fall though, last night.
Oh yeah, but it's better than nothing.
Windy day today. That's very significant because last night we had a lot of rainfall, which on the face of it looked fantastic, but actually, you know, no one's too thrilled. I mean, they're glad to have it, but what's happened is the wind has kicked in straight afterwards, and then the wind basically just grabs the moisture and whisks it away.
It's funny because the more I got to know these guys, the more I thought of them as artists of the land, not cliche simple farmer, you know, the big cliche. We were standing on this hill and looking at the view, and I just saw trees and grass, but they seemed to see it as this amazing interconnected web of organisms and life. It looked like they were using that as a kind of palette to work from and create amazing things from.
You have to start looking at your relationship with land more like a dialogue. You have to listen to it as well as speak back and see its response. We now have to look at the cycle of the seasons and adapt our culture. We weren't born into this environment. We are a nation of migrants, founded on a cultural expectation about how to work the land, which was largely from European farming methods. And for a while that system worked because we were mining the nutrients from the land that we'd cleared, upheld in the trees and the biodiversity that we'd since, I guess, ploughed or burnt into the ground. We're trying to ask the questions which will enable us to evolve a culture that's suited to Australia's climate.
I stay at the farm was pretty much coming to an end. We had a bit of a party on the last night, and it was great. I really felt like I'd got to know these guys a bit, and I'd certainly learnt so much. And it's quite sad to be leaving, really.
The drought has actually affected us positively, because I would hate to think of the position I would be in if I hadn't gone down this path of looking for adaptive strategies.
Adaptation requires a whole different way of thinking. And if you've got to think differently, then that means all the comforts of your, for want of a better term, mainstream life have to be questioned. Little example. A couple of weeks ago we had record heat spell, rah rah rah. What was the response? Dash off to Bunnings, buy a cheap ass, no star, reverse cycle air conditioner from China, plug it in and demand more electricity, which comes from a coal-fired power station, which is reinforcing the problem that gave you the heat wave in the first place. Did we question, okay, would I have been better off adapting the way I live, adapting my residence, adapting everything? No. I'll just go and buy a machine, plug it in, problem solved. For most people, the truth is that connection never, ever, ever occurs to them.
There's a lot of distractions, a lot of
sparkly
stuff.
as energy gets more expensive, as the climate becomes more unstable, the sustainable choices become obvious. So what you've got to do is you've got to build examples in as many places as possible so that you can just say, look, come in, have a look. You can't tell the difference. It doesn't look any different, but it works differently.
All these symptoms of a changing climate that's heating up and drying us out, we need to use that to move us on to the next level, which is a wider debate about our culture, how we produce our food, how we share our water, how we share our resources, how we manage our land. I don't want to show myself up as having all the answers, because I don't, but we need to use this dry period to start asking the questions and not just simply call it drought and just hope it'll rain and say, oh, it'll all be better once all this is over, because there's a good chance that it won't be. Let's engage everyone, let's try and get through this together and adapt our culture together.
I've come away with a brain full of information that is just stuffed with stuff about farming, stuff about rural communities, settlers in Australia, about how crops grow or don't grow, and the water shortage, the drought, has been one of the many issues that occupy the minds of the farmers. It's quite a tough distance, but it's well beyond water.
I really didn't know what to expect when I came out here, but I certainly wasn't expecting to be inspired by these farmers who were really raising questions about the meaning of drought and arguing a need for cultural change. It was a real eye-opener to me. As I drove home, I kept thinking about the farmers who I thought I was coming to see, the ones who are really suffering from the drought, you know, dealing with suicide, depression, family breakups and bankruptcy. And I was concerned that these people had no voice in the film. I just hadn't come across anything like that during the making of it. And I know the suffering continues to go on, and it's there. But what I found, in contrast, I suppose, was a story about a farmer who was managing to adapt and showing hope amongst all the despair.